So how many of you remember The Rise of Skywalker? I know it's been quite a while now since this movie came out. It's been a whole 6 years since this movie came out, and some of you have probably wiped it from your brains, from your consciousness. You've probably just eradicated this movie from your databases, which is fair enough. I mean, I only saw this film once or twice. I've seen this film literally once or twice. So, you know, I've definitely wiped this movie from my memory. Anyway, so we have a report. A report has been dropped by Forbes saying that the cost of The Rise of Skywalker was $600 million. $600 million for this one film, which is mental, absolutely ludicrous. That is what this movie has cost, $600 million. So, new report reveals Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker cost Disney almost $600 million. Apparently, the budget of The Rise of Skywalker went to a whole new level of insanity and is one of the most expensive films ever made. According to a new report from Forbes, the total cost of the final chapter in the Skywalker saga reportedly reached $593 million, making it the third most expensive movie ever made, just behind The Force Awakens and Jurassic World Dominion. That's far higher than the previously reported $415 million figure, which is still ridiculous, in my opinion. $415 million is ridiculous for one movie, for a singular movie. And I mean, just quickly to put some of these numbers into perspective, back in the day when they were doing the Star Wars prequels, George Lucas, and I know this because it was in that Making of the Phantom Menace documentary, George Lucas allocated $65 million, roughly, for each prequel movie. So The Phantom Menace, $65 million, Attack of the Clones, $65 million, and Revenge of the Sith, $65 million. I think Revenge of the Sith ended up being a little bit more expensive than the previous two, but George Lucas allocated roughly $65 million for each of the prequel movies. That's 3 films, so that's just under 200 million. Say 200 million. Say 200 million. Say 200 million is what the prequel trilogy cost. And I know, you know, you have to take into account inflation because The Phantom Menace was now, you know, 25, 26 years ago. So you have to take into account inflation. But I even think that adjusting for inflation, the prequel trilogy cost less than the $415 million that was initially spent on The Rise of Skywalker, which is just mental. It really is. That staggering sum includes everything from production costs and reshoots to post-production and marketing expenses. Yet, surprisingly, The Rise of Skywalker actually came in under budget. Disney even received over $100 million in reimbursements, softening the financial blow. Of course, the high price tag doesn't tell the full story of how turbulent the film's journey to the screen was. Before J.J. Abrams returned to wrap up the trilogy, Episode 9 was originally set to be directed by Colin Trevorrow, who had been developing his own version of the story titled Duel of the Fates. We got the Duel of the Fates script. It leaked. This was a while ago now. Year and a half? 2 years ago? The full script leaked online. It might have been longer than that now. But, Star Wars Theory. I don't know if you guys know Star Wars Theory. He did a whole read-through of the Duel of the Fates script. I think it was better than what we got. I think it's a shame we didn't get that movie. And I like Colin Trevorrow. He's a good director. He did, what did Colin Trevorrow do? Jurassic World. I know he did Jurassic World. And he's done some other stuff that I can't think of off the top of my head now, which is really annoying. After creative differences led to his departure, Abrams stepped in to steer the finale of the Skywalker saga. Years later, Trevorrow spoke candidly about his complicated relationship with Star Wars, saying, "My son and I have both decided that we are going to watch all of Andor this summer." First season of Andor, very, very good. I was very surprised. Haven't seen the second season yet. I am sorry. But I do have to be honest, it has been a struggle for me to engage with anything Star Wars related just on an emotional level. So to the team that made Andor, I guess I can say that you're the ones who've finally brought me back in. I think that goes for a lot of people actually. I've spoken to a lot of people recently, randomly, who are just like, "Oh mate, fucking love Andor. Andor's fucking brilliant." Anyway, just putting that out there. While The Rise of Skywalker marked the end of an era, the Star Wars franchise is finally moving forward on to the big screen again. And that will be with Mandalorian and Grogu, with Pedro, Social Anxiety Pascal, back in his iconic armour alongside everyone's favourite little green guy, Grogu. I mean, I don't know how many people actually want to see this movie. I find it weird that they're wrapping up a TV show with a movie. I don't know how much I like that. I think that's a odd decision, sort of, from a business standpoint, because you're sort of assuming that everyone's just watched the first 3 seasons of The Mandalorian and relying on them to have seen the first 3 seasons of The Mandalorian to understand the movie. I find it very weird that they're making this movie. Just wrapping up a show with a movie. Anyway, I find that to be an odd business and creative decision. But anyway. So, $600 million for the worst Star Wars movie ever made. I mean, everything that can be said about The Rise of Skywalker has already been said about 1 million times over the last 6 years, so I won't really say anything. But they could have definitely saved the trilogy. I know, like, Force Awakens, obviously everybody understands that it's just a beat for beat redo of A New Hope. Everyone understands that, and yeah, that's a bit annoying, and there's, you know, Starkiller Base is annoying and unnecessary, and the Resistance are just the rebels with new uniforms, and the First Order basically just is the Empire but with new uniforms and new designs, and, you know, there's a lot of things that are sort of unoriginal and irritating. Everyone understands that, but it was a decent start. You know, it's a decent start. And then Last Jedi fucked everything up. They just took a fucking bulldozer to what they had done with the Force Awakens. Just took a fucking bulldozer and bulldozed over everything they had done with the Force Awakens. And then for the Rise of Skywalker, they took all the rubble. And they threw gasoline over the rubble and lit the whole thing on fire. And then after they had done that, they then carpet bombed what was left. That's basically what they did. Force Awakens, decent start. The Last Jedi bulldozes everything that the Force Awakens did, and then the Rise of Skywalker throws gasoline over that destruction, and then takes that and then nukes it from space. That's probably a shit analogy. That's probably a terrible analogy, but fuck you. That's what I'm going with. Okay, that's my analysis of the sequel trilogy. That's what I'm going with. Fuck you. You can't do anything about it. It's a nightmare. It really is. They should have just gone with Colin Trevorrow and the Duel of the Fates. They should have just sucked it up and gone with that. That would have been better. That would have been more of a save, because that actually took sort of the problems that the Last Jedi caused and actually sort of worked around the Last Jedi in the best way possible, and was actually more of a logical ending than the Rise of Skywalker, because the Rise of Skywalker just doesn't make any sense. It's just not a logical, cohesive story. The Duel of the Fates would have done that. This didn't do this. This was just a desperate, last-ditch effort to try and save an absolute catastrophe. And then it became even more of a catastrophe. But whatever. That's all I wanted to cover for today. So, yeah. See you later.